day. Let's go. New shoes day. Long overdue new shoes day. Welcome back, everyone. It is a beautiful day here in Pennsylvania. We're going to go for a paddle. We are going to do a couple things, but really what we're going to do is talk about Werner paddles versus Lendal paddles. Now that I've used the Lendal for about a year, I think about a year, let's sort of see what we've learned, see where we are, see where we stand. Let's go. Okay, so new shoes day, trying out the Kokatat Seekers. I had them before. I have sort of weird needs when it comes to footwear in that I want as little support, a little bit of tread, but even that's not a deal breaker. I want a super flexy shoe. I like to wrap my toes a little bit around the foot pegs. And so I've had the Seeker before, and I think I'm using a Sea to Summit. Yeah, Sea to Summit, they're beat, man. 2 big Knoll sailing trips, an Alaska paddling trip, and then I don't know how many years of me using them just for paddling, winter and summer. They're pretty much done. So excited to get these on. But here's a big question for you. For me right now here in Pennsylvania, air temperature, depending on the source that you're using for your air temperature, is 69 to 72 degrees. Water temperature, according to the lake, depending on depth and location, 48 to 52 degrees. I am right on the border of the 120 degree line. I am going to go without a dry suit. I suspect my feet are going to be cold getting in and out of the boat. What would you do? You're right on the border. What do you think? I'm at, depending on how you count it, I'm at like 118 or 122. I feel like I'm pretty good, relatively protected, nice sunny day. I've got the van if I get wet. But the thought of putting on a dry suit in 72 or 73 degree weather is a little upsetting. So, no dry suit today. What do you think? What would you do? Dry suit? No dry suit. Let me know down below. New booties feel nice. Oh, just for the sake of clarity, I should point out, I paid not full price for any of my Werners because I was able to pro deal them. I did not pay at all for either of my Lendals. They were a loan from Lendal North America, but I don't owe allegiance to anyone. I'm giving you my opinions. And in fact, I was supposed to return the Lendals, and I tried, and they haven't gotten back to me. And that was like, I was supposed to return them in October. I found the other day, I found the email of me asking where to send them. I'm still using them, and we'll use them, well, we'll use the Voyager straight shaft until they ask for it back. So that's the deal with these. I didn't pay full price for any of them. The Lendals are in the $400 to $500 range, as are the Werners. They're very comparable price-wise. But yeah, so that's just so you know where I'm coming from. No one's paying me. They just gave me the opportunity to paddle with their paddles. Okay, so we're going to start with the Lendal. Let's talk about the Lendal. I've been paddling with this paddle. This is the Lendal Voyager. They sent me the Voyager in a straight shaft 220 and a crankshaft 220. I think they call it a modified crankshaft, MCS. Some other companies call it a bent shaft. About a year ago, I think it was just after we moved to Pennsylvania, which was last June. Yeah, I've been paddling with it ever since. And let's just do what my initial thoughts were, and I've done a number of big trips with it. It's been to the Carolina coast, it's been to Assateague. It hasn't been to Alaska, which I would have liked to have done. My initial thoughts, hey, it's a beautifully made paddle. It feels great in the water. It's got some quirks that are different from other paddles. Yeah, it's a beauty, beautifully made. You can do artwork. This is the breast cancer awareness paddle. Paddling with it at first, the things that struck me, there were things that I was concerned about that were never issues. I was concerned about this closure attracting grit. I was worried about that closure sort of grabbing things. Not an issue. The paddle shape has the paddle shaft has a definite shape to it, which concerned me in the beginning. And I'm going to come back to that because I think that is one of the most important parts of this paddle. So I paddled with it all year and really, really enjoyed it. Would not have even picked up the Werner, which I'll get to sort of my history with Werner in just a second. Except that last week I went to go paddle and to shoot a video, and it sort of came out of the back of the van by accident. There's one Lendal back there, and there's 4 Werners. And so if you look blindly, chances are you're going to pull a Werner. And I happen to pull the Werner that is the current, like, my first choice. This is, like, if I didn't have the Lendal, this is the paddle I'm grabbing, happened to come out. And I was like, oh, let's give it a shot and see what it's like. See how comparisons occur. Like, what am I thinking while I'm paddling with it? And so that was a really interesting experience that no one noticed in that video last week that I was paddling with the Werner, which really surprised me. I really expected to see something in the comments. Which brings up my only real concern shooting this video. No matter what I say, someone's going to be upset. And I'm not talking about like the people at Werner or the people at Lendal. I'm talking about people who have bought either of these paddles. What happens is when you buy a piece of gear, you then look for confirmation that it was the right piece of gear. Like, so this is why I tell people to never ask for gear advice on Facebook, because all you get are people saying, well, I use X and it's great and you should use X too. Super popular or super common thing to occur with backpacks. Well, I use X and so you should use X too. But with backpacks, it's a real issue because not every backpack fits everyone well. So that's something to definitely be aware of. So I'm going to piss someone off, but you shouldn't listen to people who are telling you what to use on the internet. So why should you listen to me? Well, no reason. You don't have to listen to me, but I've paddled with the Werner the entire length of the Alaska Panhandle. I've paddled most of the Outer Banks. I've paddled most of Long Island, a lot of the coast of Maine with the Werner, and it's a great paddle. And I've been paddling with this thing for a year, hard, solely. So if you respect that opinion, great. I'm here to tell you what I think. If you don't, you can, like, there's another video, like right over there in the bar on the side. You could pick another video to watch. But so I'm going to tell you what I think of these two paddles. Okay, so what do I like about the Lendal? Build quality is top notch. Doesn't get better than the build quality. I love the weight. I love the paddle shape. And I'll be honest, if the shafts were identical and I were paddling blindfolded, I probably couldn't tell the Werner and the Lendal apart. They feel that similar in the water. So it was a super easy transition for me to go from the Commo, which I know I'm mispronouncing Pacific Northwesters, I'm really sorry, to the Voyager. Very similar feel in the water, but that shaft is very different. I really do like the paddle shaft, the shape of the shaft. I think particularly for new paddlers, it's a good thing because the shape of it tells you if you are pulling as opposed to pushing. And it's very obvious when you are pulling. And it reinforced for me, even though I've got thousands of miles and millions of paddle strokes, that there are still times when I'm like, ooh, I'm pulling a little bit more than I should be, which is 0. So it reinforces core rotation, which I really like, particularly for new paddlers, but for everyone. I think it's a really good thing. So I really like that. Love that they're working on a way to not have drip rings. It just gives it a much cleaner look. So I really, really like that. I like the adjustability of the joint in the middle. Infinitely adjustable in terms of feather, and then adjustable in terms of length, which I don't actually use, but I could see situations where that would be a really good thing. So I really appreciate that. Yeah, and beautiful build quality. I think I mentioned that, but it goes without saying. Beautiful build quality. Absolutely love this paddle. Really great. Okay, let's talk about the Werner. Okay, the Werner Commo. Super nice paddle. This is my third Werner Commo. I also had a Calliste. The Calliste is what I used on the inside passage. It performed really beautifully. My original Werner was a Commo, which was a gift from my girlfriend, who later became my wife. So if you want to marry Brett, just buy him a really beautiful Werner paddle. So I've been paddling with Werners for 20 plus years, with the exception, obviously, of the year that I've now spent with the Lendal, so 22 years. Build quality is beautiful. Similarly, however, I will say I've had some brand new Werner paddles arrive at my door that were not amazingly pristine. This one came in amazingly pristine, but my previous Commo came in a little scratched up, like it had been sitting around a warehouse for a while. I reached out and they did replace it for me, begrudgingly. They were like, there's nothing wrong with that paddle, but we're gonna replace it anyway. Okay, so this is a beautiful paddle in the water. Quiet, no flutter, just really sensational. I really like the sort of minimalist lines. Very simple in terms of artwork and such. I really love the clean shaft, is super nice. The recessed ferrule button. I love this whole joint with the gear, with the hole, so you can see where it's set. It is not as adjustable as the Lendal. It has, what is it, 15 degrees, 1, 2, 3, 4 settings beyond 0 in terms of feather. So better than most paddles, but not as infinitely adjustable as the Lendal. Still has drip rings, which I think at some point we're going to view as old-fashioned, because I think that the folks at Lendal and probably other companies are going to come up with paddle throat shapes that do the job of a drip ring. As I was thinking about drip rings the other day, it seems like that should be not that hard to build into a paddle. But I will say the one time that function on the Lendal didn't work was in a crosswind, and it was the bent shaft paddle I was using. I have not experienced it other than that one time. So paddling in rain, in a crosswind, with a bent shaft, feathered, I got some drip on my right hand. So I'm not quite sure what was going on there. It probably just needs a little refining, or it was just like perfect conditions for that to occur. So really love the minimalism of it. At heart, I'm a minimalist and really, really love that. The weights are pretty similar. I think the Lendal might be a ½ an ounce or so lighter. So narrow of a difference that I can't tell. What do I dislike about this paddle? I dislike that I don't have that infinite adjustability, but that's really about it. There's not a lot going on here that is surprising, which is why they're not really letting anyone down. It's a great paddle that does everything you ask it to do well, but they're also not really pushing any boundaries or frontiers in terms of what this paddle can do. So I think that both of them work really well. I've done self-rescues with both. They're both solid, they're both steady. None of them feel like they're gonna flex all that much or break. Yeah, so that's what I like and dislike about both these paddles. Not a whole lot of dislikes for either. I worried on the Lendal about that joint picking up grit. It didn't. I worried about that joint on the Lendal bumping into things and snagging. It didn't. It's a non-issue. Yeah. So, what's the verdict? GoPro, stop recording. Okay, so which is it? The Lendal or the Werner? If I were a new paddler looking to buy a high quality, like a first high quality paddle, I would probably go with the Lendal. Because of that shaft shape that really reinforces, don't pull the paddle through the water. And if that doesn't make sense to you, here's a link to a video that explains where power in paddling comes from, and it's from pushing the paddle and torso rotation. I think that is a great option because it reinforces those concepts. You immediately know when you're pulling the paddle using the Lendal. For everyone else, if you're like, I just need a new high-end paddle, I think both brands are great. Quality is great. Both companies clearly enjoy making high-quality paddles. I will say, if you like the underdog, Lendal is a much smaller company than Werner is. Werner is not like Bending Branch's Aquabound big, but it's bigger than Lendal in terms of number of paddles they're putting out. So if you like an underdog, go with Lendal. I love the option of custom artwork on the paddle. I think that is super cool and would love an Adventure Otaku paddle from them. But yeah, I think either one of those will work really well for you, without a doubt. Okay, let me know what you think down in the comments. That was my first paddle of the year without a dry suit, and I gotta tell you, it was so nice. I love my dry suit, but it is nice when the weather gets like this. I'll also throw out, use your sunscreen, kids. Sun protective clothing, sunscreen. My skin cancer has reared its ugly head again. I don't know if you've noticed it in videos. I've been trying to shoot in this direction as opposed to this direction so you can see what's going on here, or can't see what's going on there. Wear your sunscreen. It seems like a stupid thing to have to say, but take care of yourselves. This has been like 6 months I've been dealing with this. This is like my third bout of skin cancer. So take care of yourselves and use sunscreen and protect yourself, particularly if you live your life outside, which is not a bad place to live until the sun gets you. Okay, do me a favor, hit like, hit subscribe. My books, if you're a new paddler, I have great books for you available on Ko-fi in digital form or Amazon in paperback, all about getting started. Gear lists and float plans and stuff like that are available on Ko-fi. Links are down below. Otherwise, I'll see you on the water.